Welcome, everyone, to ITD Gaming News, your number one news source for gaming news from last week, today, or when you're watching this. We are your hosts. I'm Nick Irwin, Patrick Smith, and we're going to bring you the gaming news from last week. To the things that we're going to talk about, just kind of give you a rundown real quick, is IO's new Dragon Fantasy-based game that they're developing, possibly going to be an Xbox exclusive. Sony's State of Play that they had just this last week. Microsoft 12% revenue cut. They're changing their cut for revenue for their PC games. We're going to talk about that. And then Valve's antitrust lawsuit that they had going on this week. So, Patrick, are you ready to get started?
I'm ready. Let's dive right in.
All right. So the first one we're going to start with is IO Interactive. IO Interactive, you know, they were with Square Enix and they've branched off from Square, and they're looking to make a. So they're reportedly working on a dragon-themed fantasy game, potentially as an Xbox exclusive. So a lot of people were thinking that this might be Scalebound or Scalebound-centric, being that Microsoft still owns the rights to that franchise, or that potential franchise, I should say, that never got off the ground by Platinum originally. But apparently IO has come out and said, nope, this is not that. So, but it is this would be a new game for IO Interactive, because they're mainly Hitman, and, they probably have some other ones under their belt, but they're mostly known for Hitman games. So that's a really good developer. I mean, Hitman's always a really great game. It'll be kind of weird them going from like Hitman, which is more realistic, to a fantasy dragon themed game, but still, it's a really good developer. That's really cool. Even if it's not exclusive to Xbox, it's still nice to see that developer's kind of spreading their wings and kind of going in a different direction with their games and making something new. It's supposed to be AAA in scope. So that's awesome. I mean, this developer usually makes AAA games anyway. Hitman's usually a pretty high budget game, really nice looking and plays well. So, yeah, I mean, that sounds cool. A new IP from them sounds awesome. What do you think of this news?
Right. Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, no AAA in scope title for them. It's kind of interesting because they mentioned it. Hakano mentioned it back when they did an interview. And he mentioned that during the opening of the new Barcelona studio that they were working on a new title, and everybody was speculating that it was that Scalebound game. And as you had mentioned, that was a project between Microsoft. Microsoft still owns that IP, I should say. So Platinum didn't own it, and so Microsoft still owns it. So there's a lot of rumors that Microsoft was pushing that towards IO, but IO basically made it clear that it's not Scalebound, that it's a brand new IP. So that's kind of cool to hear. We're still very early in the news cycle for this, so it's still years out, and years is in multiple years. It's not coming out this year or next year, but it's a few years down the road. So I kind of interested to see what these guys can do. I mean, I like the Hitman series, and I agree with you. It's more realistic than fantasy RPG with dragons that they're talking about. So let's see what IO can do with dragons.
Maybe it's Hitman riding dragons. So he rides dragons and snipes people out of the air.
Right. He's got his silenced pistol swooping it on a dragon.
Well, it's fantasy themed, so it's a silenced crossbow.
There you go. He's got his crossbow. But
it's silenced.
No, we got the bald agent in his tuxedo suit with some armor pieces on it, and a giant sword.
Right. Everything's silenced. Silent spear, silent bow,
silent dragon,
silent mace. Silent dragon,
it's all stealth. It's all stealth. You're just tiptoeing around on your dragon. You're tiptoeing around the corner.
Don't fly.
Don't fly to those wings. Yeah. So yeah, AAA in scope, which is kind of cool. Which what they do is currently AAA, which is kind of funny when you think of them as an indie, because they're touted as an indie studio since they broke off from Square. But I don't really consider IO an indie studio in my opinion.
No, they're pretty big studio, and they've made a lot of games and have a pretty good track record and probably have a lot of money, so I wouldn't consider them indie.
Right, yeah, because I remember the news when they were saying they broke off from Square Enix to become a fully indie, and And I'm like, you make a little bit too much money for me to consider you to go indie. but yeah, I'm definitely excited for that. I mean, who doesn't love a good dragon game, right?
Right. Yeah. Who doesn't like a good fantasy game, with dragons? So, hopefully it'll be
Hitman.
pretty cool. And Hitman, yeah. Hopefully it'll be pretty cool. I mean, there's been other dragon games in the past that don't really work out so well, but, maybe this one will. So,
Right. Look at
we'll
Scalebound. Microsoft didn't like it. I guess. I don't know what
Someone
happened
didn't
with that.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just didn't work out. But we'll see what this happens. Like you said, it's kind of early on, so it'll be a while before, we get more information about this game. But something to look out for, something to keep an eye on as the information and news starts to trickle out later on in the year or next year or whenever. Maybe we'll see something at E3. I doubt it, but maybe E3 next year. You might see something.
Or an announcement. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for it, and I could care less if it was an exclusive or not, in my opinion. It's another feather in Microsoft's cap if it is exclusive, but if it's not, it's just good for gamers all around.
Right. Yeah. As long as I can play it, then I'm cool. I don't care where it goes.
Exactly.
All right. So we'll go ahead and move on now to Sony's State of Play. So Sony had a State of Play this week, and it was really short. So basically they showed off Subnautica Below Zero. So according to that one's coming out for PS4 and PS5. If you get the game on PS4 and then get a PS5 later, you will get an upgrade to the PS5 version for free. So that's cool. Subnautica is a great game. Below Zero is going to be a great game as well. Me and you both have it on PC, so that's where we're going to play it when it fully releases. We bought into the early access and then just kind of sitting on it till it comes fully out, but that's cool. Then they showed off Among Us. Among Us is coming to, it's mainly on PC right now, but it is, and I think Android and iOS, but it is coming to Xbox and it's now also coming to PlayStation. And on PlayStation, it has some exclusive little minions or whatever they call them in Among Us. There's two exclusive ones, a Ratchet and Clank looking version of those little guys for the PlayStation. So cool. I mean, I know Among Us is a pretty popular game. Something like that, like the exclusive little miniature guys, is probably not going to push anybody to go for the PlayStation version versus another version of the game. Most people have it already on PC or on your phone. It's not, it's not a super like highly graphical game. So most PC, machines out there and or someone has a phone can play it now. So, it'll be nice for those people that don't have that or don't want to play it on PC or phone. Now they'll have it on Xbox and on PlayStation. So that's cool. More people into that game. People seem to really like it. So good on them. And then the last thing they showed off was Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank comes out in June 11th, I believe. And they had a long gameplay presentation of that, long gameplay demo. And that game looks gorgeous, looks great. It's a PS5 exclusive from my understanding, so it is not coming to PS4. And it looks really cool. I've never been really big into the Ratchet and Clank series. I know a lot of people are, though, and a lot of people like it. This one looks really good. If I had a PlayStation 5, I probably would pick it up. Because it does look really good, but unfortunately, those PlayStation 5s are hard to find. So, but that was pretty much it. I mean, that's all they showed off, and it was really short. I was kind of expecting more, especially if you're going to have like a State of Play where you're going to show stuff off. Their last State of Play was pretty, well, it wasn't super long, but it was definitely longer than this and showed off more stuff. And this only had 3 games to show. I'm just like, you could have just put out some articles saying that these games, like a trailer for Subnautica and Among Us, and then just had like, not necessarily, well, I mean, if you want to call it a State of Play, that's fine, but just have a Ratchet and Clank State of Play where you're just showing off the game and, just kind of hyping it up for its June release. That's kind of what they did here, but they threw in the other 2, which just seems a little unnecessary, and kind of put out there, hey, we're going to have this, State of Play. I don't know what they said beforehand, because I didn't even know this was coming up. For me, it was kind of a surprise. Notification from IGN, I think, on my phone said, hey, the Sony State of Play is starting. I'm like, huh? I didn't even know there was one. But so I don't know how much they hyped this one up, but beforehand.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, what do you think of this? There's not a lot going on that
Yeah, I mean, the two games that are already in existence and known are coming to PlayStation. You know, as you mentioned, I love Subnautica, the original, and I purchased early access for Below Zero, but I have not played it because I learned my lesson from playing the first one that a lot of the story elements are usually left out till the release, and we're hitting release of Subnautica Below Zero next month, so I'm biding my time to play that. But I will, like I said, I'll be playing it on PC as well. Um, but, you know, good news for console players. You know, you get to play Subnautica. It's a great game if you like that type of stuff. And then the Among Us, as Nick said the same thing. I'm not really big into that game. Haven't really played it a whole lot. And it wouldn't make me buy a PlayStation just because I got a exclusive Ratchet and Clank skin, hat, and pet. You know, so, but you know, hey, more access, more accessibility for this game. This game is very popular, especially amongst the younger kids and stuff like that, and streamers and stuff like that. So, it spawned off its own little mini culture, pop culture for this game, you know, so more power to them getting this one. The Ratchet and Clank thing, you know, this is going back into some stuff that I brought up before, but we were told right around the time that when consoles were coming out that there wasn't going to be any exclusives to current gen consoles. And guess what we're getting? We're getting slammed with these never going to get it on a PlayStation 4 games. You know, Returnal is one, and this one's another one, and others. They've killed off the old gen consoles before the market has been saturated with the new gen consoles, and I'm completely against that. On our group of friends, 4 of us, not for lack of trying, none of us have a PlayStation 5. Every time I try to buy a PlayStation 5, it's sold out within a minute or two wherever it goes on sale, and I can barely get it in my cart before it's gone. So, and I'm not going to pay a scalper. So, you know, Sony has put out so much news about, you know, this game is that their consoles are outpacing the PS4 and all this in previous gens, and I'm like, well, previous gens didn't have scalper problems like this one PS5 does, and due to the rarity of the console and the chips, the chip manufacturer issues and COVID, there's not as many to go around, and so scalpers are buying them all up and selling them for double and triple the profit. So it's really a bad time to be releasing current gen only games. In my opinion, they need to support current gen for at least a full year, and it's not even been it's barely been half a year, and the console's not saturated the market enough. So basically, Sony and stuff like this, you know, hey, more power to Ratchet and Clank. I've never played them either. Looks like a great game. And I would play it too if I had a PlayStation 5, like you said. But I don't have a PlayStation 5, and by the time I do get one, this one will be so far out of my mind that I'm probably not going to play it. I'll have too much other stuff. It's definitely, it looks really good. The whole, Nefarious City stuff looks pretty cool from what I saw in the trailer, but I won't get to play it anytime soon. And you know, I think they need to reverse this course of PS5 only exclusivity stuff.
Yeah, I would agree. At least until they, like you said, until they've saturated the market with enough PS5s that you can easily just go to the store and pick one up, right? And that's the same for Xbox as well, right? You know, Xbox doesn't. I mean, the only thing that they've put out that is a Series S or X exclusive is the Medium. The Medium was not available for Xbox One. But I think that's the only game Xbox has had that's been exclusive in that sense. Now, PlayStation, like you said, we have 2 now. We have Returnal that just came out, and then Ratchet and Clank that's going to be coming out soon. And then I don't know if I'm sure they have some others down the pipe, but right. Yeah, they do need to hold off, I think, until they can get enough PS5s out there. Because, you know, I would think also it would be interesting to know, like, and I'm sure there's a lot, you know, for Xbox and for PlayStation, like how many of those are in the hands of actual gamers and how many of those scalpers are holding on to. You know, they both, Xbox and PlayStation, did post like pretty big sales for their consoles. But like you said, the PlayStation 5 is outpacing the PlayStation 4 in sales. But it's like, but how many of those sales are in actual gamers' hands? And will that hurt, you know, could that potentially hurt games like Ratchet and Clank and like Returnal? Exactly what you said. You know, by the time for not a lack of trying, we've tried numerous times to get PlayStation 5s. And by the time we get one, these games are going to be so far out of our mind that we're not going to play them. Right? It's looking probably till next year until we can get one, you know? as good as our luck has been trying to get one now. So, by that time we're going to have new PlayStation 5 games come out that Returnal and Ratchet and Clank and all these old ones are going to be like, we're not even going to think about them or even go out and purchase them because it's just going to be too long in the tooth by that time.
Right. I do believe it's hurting game sales, and PlayStation just hasn't addressed that yet because they don't have a solution. Because yeah, I mean, even let's say that it does take us till next year, this first quarter of next year to be able to get a PlayStation 5. Returnal's going to be on sale. Demon Souls is going to be on sale. Ratchet and Clank's going to be on sale. I can pick these up for $30 now instead of paying the full $60. So it's going to hurt their software sales and their developer sales. So they need to probably think through that a little bit as how much money are they losing by making this game a PS5 exclusive that they could have made if it was for both consoles. It'd be interesting, obviously we can't ever tell that, but it would be funny. It would be kind of interesting to do a release of this game or Returnal, any of them, on PS4 and PS5 and see what the market share is. Like, we sold this many PS4 versions versus this many PS5 versions, and just see that the PS4 versions would be lost sales. The reason that you have PS4 sales is because X, Y, and Z, we can't get PlayStation 5. So I honestly do think it is hurting the developers for these games, but will Sony admit it, or will the developers ever admit it? Probably not, unless the studio that's doing it decides that they want to release numbers to prove that scalpers are hurting the market.
Right. Yeah, and it's nothing against, it's nothing really, I mean, for that, it is against Sony for not, kind of for putting stuff on the PlayStation and not the PlayStation 4. But as far as like, having that player base out there, that's the scalper's fault, for going in there and buying all these PlayStation 5s and Xbox Series and even for NVIDIA for their GTX 3060 cards, and I think I want to say the same thing happened with AMD with their last RTX cards. People were just buying them all up, and so no one can, all these scalpers are holding on to them, and the company is getting a lot of sales, but then these particular items are not in their hands. So I mean, that's
right.
A different subject altogether. But scalpers are really hurting the market, I feel.
Yeah, scalpers are destroying the gaming industry right now, and the PC industry twofold. And honestly, because well, I guess not twofold, but they're in the same market as consoles are, because scalpers are buying up all the consoles to try to make a profit. And in the PC market, the chip makers are struggling to keep up with demand because video cards are being sold to gamers and to crypto miners. So scalpers are buying that up and selling those for triple, quadruple the price. I mean, you think about like a 3060 card. A 3060 card on a normal release would be about a $300, $400 card. Yeah, $300, $400 at max, depending on which version you got. You can get the higher end $600 ones or whatever. But those cards are going for $1,200, $3,000, $4,000 because of crypto mining and gaming, and scalpers buying up because of the chip shortages. So, they're getting double whammy. Not only is the chip shortage hurting the video graphics industry, but crypto mining is hurting that as industry as well. And people like NVIDIA who are adding like hash restrictions and stuff to their card, they're kind of helping, but their mindset is just, how can we make more money off these crypto miners, and we're going to make cards exclusively for them. But crypto mining on video cards, because you crypto mine on a hard drive, you can crypto mine on web, you can crypto mine on just about anything with the right currency. Video cards are just the way to go right now, and even older cards are making a resurgence. Like I saw some of the old 900 series, 200, 500 series going for like insane amounts of money, $600, $500 for a 5-year-old card. It's insane right now. Gaming is hurting right now because of this type of market.
Yeah, for sure. And so it sucks. I mean, hopefully things will turn around, and hopefully they will at some point. They've got to, I would imagine, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how the industry goes with all this, and hopefully PlayStation and Xbox can, get their consoles out there so people can buy them. Because it's not just Sony. Xbox is also having this problem. If you go out there and you may, some people may not believe it because Xbox did have a bad last year, last iteration, but the Xbox Series X is selling out when it comes out. Same thing, same way as the PlayStations do. Because if you go on those forums and various other things, even on the PlayStation forums, there's most of the, like on PlayStation Reddit, that talks about PlayStation stock. There's people on there looking for both consoles and running into both problems. Even though it's a PlayStation, Reddit forum that people are talking, and they're like, I can't get either one of them, and they're trying for both. And they even put out stuff in those for like, oh, they're going to have a Series X drop here, and they're going to have a PlayStation 5 drop. I mean, they're both. So, most of the people out there are looking for both consoles and still having a hard time getting both nailed down. So,
yep,
it's a big problem for the industry as a whole.
Yep. And it's gamers being bros trying to help out gamers, regardless if you're trying to get a PlayStation or an Xbox,
Yeah, because a lot of people on there are super, a lot of people on there are super friendly. I mean, they were talking about Xbox, like people are like, oh yeah, that supposedly they're supposed to have some tonight or whatever, check it out. And, so yeah, it's just gamers trying to help gamers get these consoles because, as far as a real gamer, as far as like us, we play on the Xbox mostly, but we like all the consoles. So it's like Pokemon. We want to catch them all. We're going to go buy them all. We're going to buy the PlayStation, the Xbox, the Switches, and all that stuff because there's games that come out for those consoles that we want to play that are exclusive to those consoles. So
exactly. Can't wait to play those PlayStation exclusives. I want it, but I can't do it right now.
Yeah. If we had one, I mean, we'd probably be playing Returnal, more than likely. So...
Yep.
But unfortunately, we don't, so we can't. But anywho, moving on. Let's go on to Microsoft's 12% revenue cut. So Microsoft did announce that they are cutting down the amount of revenue that they get. Right now, they get 30% on PC games that are sold through their Windows Store. So starting in August, it looks like they will be cutting that down to 12%. So they'll only get 12% of the revenue from PC games that go onto their store. And that's to basically entice PC game developers to put games on their store. Epic does this now. I believe Epic is 12% currently. And Steam is 30%, I believe. Is that right? Pretty sure. So
that is correct.
Yeah, so that would be good, That's good for Microsoft and that's good for developers. And I think that will entice developers to come to Microsoft's store to put their games out there. The only problem I see, and we talked about this before the newscast here, is I think for Microsoft, they really need to have some sort of storefront like Epic and Steam and Origin and all those do. Because if anybody's listening, and me and Patrick know for sure that the Microsoft storefront is not the greatest. It's probably the worst one out of them all, I think, because it's just really hard to find stuff on there. It's really hard to search for things, find stuff that you're looking for. It's really clunky. So if they had like an application, I mean, they do have the Xbox application, but still, that one's great for Game Pass stuff. But anything else on there is really difficult to find as well. So I think if they had some sort of application like Steam or Epic, that would be more enticing to those developers. But this is a good move, especially for those PC developers that are looking. Maybe they don't like Epic or they don't want to put their stuff on Epic, and Steam takes too much revenue, and they can just throw it onto the Microsoft Store, and maybe that'll up the Microsoft Store's interest more, and then Microsoft will look into more development for their storefront. But what do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing because the Microsoft Store is kind of lackluster when you go on PC games that you can buy. Because I'm a Game Pass Ultimate member, so I go on there and see what's free. But then I also get on there and I'm like, okay, what's on there that I can buy? And I'm like, hey, I want to buy this. It's not on there. And I go to and I have to go to like Steam, and then I go to Epic, and so it's interesting that this is happening for Microsoft. I agree. It's really good for developers, and it's really good for enticing. I mean, it's working for Epic. I mean, we all know the behemoth in the room has always been Valve. Steam has always had like the majority of games on there. They have the best sells. They have this massive app full of games that just works. You can sort by genres, by subtypes, by cost, by amount. You can do so much sorting and filtering that I've spent hours just trying to find a game because I don't know what I want to play, but I'll go through Steam's store and just search through their catalog by filtering things out till I find the perfect game that I feel like I want to waste my time on this week or weekend, Can't do that with the Microsoft Store. It's really bad. And for that part, the Epic Store is not that much better. I mean, you can still search, but the genre search is kind of bad. I mean, it still has where you can search by genre and subgenre, but you have to be careful and make sure that you uncheck genres and stuff like that, because it'll whittle it down to where there's no games. But I think Epic has been able to whittle away from Steam, because they're giving away a lot of free games. They're basically pulling a Microsoft against Steam. They're saying, here's some free games, but you only have to have a subscription. So I'm not sure how they're doing that, if they're just losing money to try to get a fan base. But yeah, so this will put Microsoft in line with Epic with the 12%. So that means they'll only take 12% of the revenue of the digital sales for their store, which is awesome, because I think 30% is insane. Like, all they're doing is giving you a storefront. I guess when we all think about old MSRP margins, they were supposed to be 40 points. So 40%, and so they were like, well, we're 10% lower than that, but they don't have a physical presence. So where's that money going? All they're doing is having a digital footprint that they maintain. So 12%, I think, is really great. And I hope it works out for Microsoft and the developers, so that they can continue to do this partnership and we get more games on the Xbox storefront. My biggest problem right now is I have too many storefronts that have games that I can only go there. I have to go to Epic for some. I have to go to Origins for some. I have to go to Steam for some, and now Microsoft for some.
Right. And don't forget Ubisoft. They have a storefront too.
I don't know if I have anything on the Ubisoft store that I don't have anywhere else.
Yeah. I don't think I agree. I have some games on the Ubisoft storefront, but I think I own them on Steam, all the games that I have on there.
Right.
And it's just ones that they gave out for free and stuff. A lot of the Assassin's Creed, which I have a million copies of that everywhere. But yeah, this will be good. We'll see where this goes. And I agree, the Epic store, Steam's got the best storefront for sure. The Epic storefront, I didn't care for it much before, but there are, because of their exclusivity with certain games, that I do find myself looking at their store saying, like, what's out here, because they do have some games that are exclusive out there, and some of them I do want to play. They have that Humankind one that I think that 4X strategy one, you can buy it now. It's not out yet, but you can buy it now, and you can play like the first couple levels or something like that.
Right.
And that's exclusive to the I don't believe the game's exclusive, but that play early thing, I believe, is exclusive to the Epic store. So, stuff like that, Epic is definitely trying to bring you into their ecosystem, and more developers are going that way because of that 12% revenue that they take, and then the developer gets the rest. So that'll be good for, like you said, that'll be good for Microsoft, and I think more developers will probably look into that kind of exclusivity like they do with Epic, and bring more in to that storefront, and maybe that will kind of cascade down onto the Xbox platform. So
right, yeah, I mean, because Valve, they do have like a cut. 30% is where you start at, but yeah, if you make so much money, they drop it down to 25% and then 20%. But that, to me, that's obviously it hurts the little guys, which I don't understand how, if they're taking 30% of the cut, how guys like the guy that does Phasmophobia getting his fair share if they're taking 30% of his money that he's getting. So I do think that's unfair to developers, especially, the smaller studios who they live and die by that little bit of revenue they can get. And if Valve is taking 30% of that $20 that he's charging, it's pretty rough at that point, I would say. Yeah. So they're getting $6 of that guy's $20, and all they did was say, "Here, put it up on our storefront."
Right. Yeah, it's gonna suck. I mean, because I think Phasmophobia is even cheaper than $20. I think it's like a $15 game or something like that. So it's still, they're still getting 30%, and Valheim, all those games, right.
Unless you blow up, that's they're taking a good chunk of your money
for sure. And speaking of Valve, we'll go into our last topic here. Speaking of Valve, so Valve is facing an antitrust lawsuit over a Steam monopoly. So basically, Wolfire Games, studio that made games like Overgrowth, Receiver, and apparently they're the original creator of the Humble Bundle, has filed an antitrust lawsuit against Valve. The studio alleges that Valve abuses its dominance in the PC gaming market and suppresses competition. So this is basically talking about kind of what we were talking about just a minute ago, how Valve is taking 30% of that revenue cut. So they're basically, they're suppressing the competition to protect its market dominance. So they're basically just creating a monopoly, according to what this lawsuit is saying. And yeah, I mean I can definitely see that. I mean, what is your take on this lawsuit?
One of the things that's interesting about this lawsuit from them is that the case also mentions the Valve's policy on selling Steam keys. So like other platforms can sell Steam keys, which cool, because I just mentioned earlier, I have games in so many places that I try to keep them in one place. So sometimes I'll look on Green Man Gaming or these other websites to buy Steam keys so I can make sure that my game is still in one location, so Steam still manages my game, but I bought it at a discount on Green Man Gaming or some other gaming site. So the problem is, in this case, they're saying that Valve, if you're allowed to sell a Valve Steam key, you can't discount their 30%. They still have to get their 30%. So if Green Man Gaming says, "Hey, we'll sell your game for 12%," but which you buy a game on their site, but if you're selling a Steam key, you can't do that. You can't discount that. It's still, the developer still gets Valve still gets 30% of that sale. So it prevents other online retailers who sell Steam keys from discounting the game as much as they would like, so they could sell and be a competition to other stores. So it prevents deeper discounts on their games, is basically what they're saying. And because of the monstrous size that Valve is, I mean, they're a $6 billion profit every year company. They make $6 billion on game sales. I can understand where they're saying that there's a little bit of antitrust going on here, because they are basically, up until these other guys came into the market, Epic, and now, Microsoft's starting to dip their toe into it. And so it started to feel like an old Ma Bell scheme again, where a phone company became one giant phone company and the government had to step in and break them up. But, there's no such thing in the gaming industry as that. So right now, Steam was the ruler of them all until within the last few years with Epic and a few of these others. Sometimes there's just rifts sown in the market with like EA Play and Origins, EA Origins, so that but EA is usually on the Origin stuff. They've usually allowed their stuff to be sold other places, so no big deal there. But yeah, I agree with parts of this. I'm kind of interested to see how this is going to go. It'll be a blow to Steam if it's ruled in favor of the studio. So if Wolfire Games gets, I mean, who knows? They may settle out of court for an undisclosed amount and nothing will ever happen because of it.
Yeah, that's probably the route it's going to go. But I mean, so technically with the Steam keys, is Steam in that case double dipping? I mean, I'm not sure how the purchase of the keys go. Like if another developer or a platform, I would assume they have to buy these keys from Valve and then sell them on their storefront. So then Valve gets the 30% from that, and also the 30% from them being sold on the other storefront.
I'm not quite sure how that works. I don't think so. I think basically the developer has to agree to a set price, and then so if the developer says, okay, we'll take $40 for your game, and they're selling a Steam key on, let's say, Green Man Gaming or whatever. So Green Man Gaming has to pay 30% to Valve and then pull out their percentage, I would assume, and then give the developer their percentage, so it's real. And so in that case, the developer's losing even more money. So I don't know what Green Man Gaming or these other sites that sell Steam keys sells them for, but so in that case, is the developer getting 12% less or 10% less or whatever? So are they losing 40% or 50%? Who knows what they're losing? I'm not too fully versed in how the Steam key thing works, but I do know that Valve still gets their 30% of the revenue. So of that
right.
key, so
and they should, and they shouldn't. I mean, that's what the lawsuit's mainly about, is they shouldn't be able to do that. Especially if a different platform is selling a key for Steam. I mean, why does Steam get that 30% still? But I can also understand it because, I mean, they would have to put something in there to prevent the developer from just selling, like having it there, but selling a bunch of keys to. And we don't know how the keys get onto a different platform. Like, does that platform go to Valve and buy these keys? Is it something supplied by the developer? Like, what's the, how does that all work in the back end? But, that would prevent a developer from going somewhere else like Green Man Gaming and selling all their Steam keys there, But again, yeah, Valve's going to have to do something. Right now they are the dominant one, but they are losing it to Epic. If Microsoft comes in strong, and Origin, I don't think Origin's going to go anywhere. It never has since its alliteration. Neither has the Ubisoft store. But Epic came in, and we all thought Epic was going to kind of die out like these other platforms, but it's actually going pretty strong for them. And Epic's done really well to put their foot into the market. And Microsoft is trying to do the same thing with that 12% cut, which we just talked about. And if that propels Microsoft's store as well, now Steam has two competitors in the market. And if they don't do something about their 30% and kind of these antitrust things that they're doing, then you might see Steam. You could potentially see Steam's fall from grace. Them coming down as far as the dominant one, in Epic picking up the mantle, or even Microsoft picking up the mantle and being the storefront to be on. And that's ultimately what Epic and Microsoft are trying to do, right? Ultimately, they want to be the dominant one, but it's going to be really interesting to see how Valve responds to this and how this works out to be. Like you said, it probably will just be a behind the scenes, like out of court settlement, but hopefully Valve, and I'm sure they're looking into this and seeing what they can do. Maybe they're trying to get away with it as long as possible before they have to make the change, because eventually they're going to have to drop that down from 30% to somewhere close to what they don't necessarily have to be 12%, but they could drop it down closer to their percentages, revenue cut, to be able to compete, because more and more developers, especially for Epic, are going there. I mean, we're seeing it happen every time we turn around. Even games that were originally going to come to Steam turn around and go exclusively to Epic for a period of time, right?
Yep. I mean, if you can basically take what Steam's going to charge you 30% and more than half that down to 12%, why wouldn't you? You're going to be like, hey, I'm going to get, do I want 70% of my money, or do I want 88% of the money from my sale? I mean, it's a no-brainer. If I was a developer, I'd be like, well, I want the larger chunk of my pie. I did all the work. All you did was put up a digital ad for me, that you can get from my website.
Right. Yeah. Just a platform that I could put my stuff out onto. So, and like I said, Epic's getting that foothold into the market. A lot more people are using Epic. Epic Store is being more talked about when in relation to Steam. When a Steam, or Epic story beat comes out, usually one or the other is mentioned in there. So Epic's really starting to give Steam a run for its money. It's not quite there, but it's getting there, slowly but surely. And so Steam, Valve's going to have to think of something. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this. Like I said, it could be nothing, could be something, might be something substantial, and then we'll see like a big, Steam kind of be more competitive. That would be nice for us gamers. If they become more competitive with that in that market, with their competing with Epic. If they start seeing that Epic is an issue and a competitor for them, then hey, it's good for all gamers, right? And developers.
Right. I foresee one of two things happening for Valve. One, business as usual. They don't care. They pay off this thing. Second is that they take it to court and they lose, or they just, like you just said, they realize that Microsoft and Epic are major competition. They're going to lose out, so they're going to have to do some matching. So Valve will either stay the same, or they'll start reducing the amount of percentage they take.
Right. So we will see. We will see what happens. But with that is the gaming news for today from last week, from the day that you listened to it at some point during the week today, or when you listen. but anyway, thanks everyone for listening and watching ITD Gaming News. Make sure to like and subscribe down below. Leave us a comment. What do you think of these news topics? Or if you have any news topics you think we may need to talk about, or anything you're interested in, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just say something down below and let us know you're there. But I hope you enjoy these. Patrick, anything else that you want to say? Any parting words?
That's all I got. Appreciate everybody
All right.
listening.
Awesome. See you next time.